latest. South side or the north side, not tuned to the greatest. Home team for the home teams. Both sides got our own rings. On the mound or the long ball, but we don't pull the wrong strings. Yeah. It's that time of the year now. Wrigley or Gantes or the whole league that we hear now. New show with a new mood. Discussions and interviews. Trade rumors that might be. This is Pinwheels and Knife.
Welcome to the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. My name is Aldo Soto. Along with me tonight is Kevin Fiddler. As always, the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast is brought to you by Sports Mockery. Visit sportsmockery.com for the latest Chicago sports news. NFL season, Bears about to kick off in less than 2 weeks. Cubs still sticking around in the wild card race, kind of. The White Sox are a mess. But you can catch all latest stuff with them. Mitch, shout out Mitch, in the Pinwheels pregame, and check out his work on Sports Mockery too. Sportsmockery.com. Download the app, Sports Mockery. Turn on the notifications for all the latest news. And homage. We have the QR code here in the top right corner. Visit homage. Yeah, look at Kevin's sweet shirt.
This Odunze.
Look at that. Beautiful.
Little Odunze and Caleb stuff going on.
Beautiful. Hey, things might not be looking, well, they're looking a little better for the Cubs lately, but even though the baseball hasn't been that great this year, I think Chicago fans are going to have a lot of fun with the Bears moving forward. That's homage, homage.com for all its latest apparel. Cubs, Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, and so on. And Whites, well, you know.
And
NASCAR. For the Mitch freaks out there. That's homage.com. Scan the QR code. Good sponsor for us here. So Kevin, we've been out for a couple weeks. Apologies for that. We're still getting our schedules. It's new school year for Kevin. I'm out here moving around. Mm-hmm. But shout out to Mitch though. He's been on it with the Sox Talk, the Pinwheels pregame at noon every Wednesday. So check that out too for all your latest Sox Talk as well. The Cubs are 28-19 since the 4th of July. They keep winning series. They finally swept a series, and they did it in fantastic fashion Wednesday, beating Paul Skeens after Kyle Hendricks was trash once again. The bullpen wasn't that much better, but the offense that has been kind of dead for the majority of the season has exploded. And I can only thank the littlest of little brothers in the NL Central, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Anytime the Cubs need to get on a roll, the Pirates just come strolling in, and the Cubs just paddle them. Every time, I think they scored, was it 41 runs in this 3-game series in Pittsburgh, Kevin? Was it 18, 8, and then 14 runs against the Pirates? And that was against the Pirates' top 3 starting pitchers that were starting for them. They had Mitch Keller on Monday night. They had Jared Jones coming back on Tuesday. And then, of course, Paul Skeens, who's been fantastic this year. He went 5 innings. I mean, he wasn't like awful, but in terms of his overall starts this year, he looked mediocre today. And I think the best thing that happened for the Cubs is the Pirates scoring. They scored a couple more times in the 5th inning, and the Pirates manager's like, all right, the lead looks safe enough. We're going to rest you, Paul. And then all of a sudden the Cubs came back. And as I made the title tonight, our Lord and Savior, Christian Bethancourt, 7 RBI, drove in half the runs on Wednesday. Backup catcher. Cubs picked him up. I think that he was with the Marlins to begin the season. He was released. He was down at AAA for a couple weeks, maybe a month. He was called up after Tomas Nido went on the IL for the Cubs. And he's been one of the best players on the Cubs since he's joined the team. I saw something. He's hitting like 500. Again, it's a small sample size, but the dude has 15 RBIs, I think, in 11 games. This guy's insane. And again, 7 of those came on Wednesday against the Pirates. But the Cubs, I mean, it's tough. They're 68-66. They're finally above 500. They're flirting for that like getting above above that 500 mark for so long. They're finally over it. I think they're going to stick there now. Again, we've been talking about the weak schedule. They're taking advantage. But the wild card, I mean, they're still 5.5 games back of Atlanta. Kevin, is it too late? What are you making this latest run by the Cubs?
First off, this has been fantastic. If you've listened to the podcast, even with our little intermission through the summer, and it is good to see you guys back. Hey, Sean, what's up? See you in the chat. Dawn, don't worry. It was sarcasm. But this has been great. We had a little time off again. I had school and everything, and Aldo had everything, and Zoe's on his, his vision quest, and Mitch is chasing his inner Cronkite, and it's all, it'll align again. But last time we talked, I mean, we've been like this the whole, since midsummer, we've known that this is a favorable schedule to finish for the Cubs, especially we're in that stretch. I'm a little concerned on some things, but I mean, let's start with really what has set this thing off, which is the bottom third of the lineup. It's been an albatross, as bad as the bullpen early in the season too, which has also shored itself up a little bit. Not so much maybe in high leverage situations, but overall, and in the same breath, the bottom third of the lineup, whether it's PCA, Miguel Amaya, both catchers really. I mean, God, catchers have been like the theme of this little run. You've got a group that's all of a sudden scoring runs, and that's probably been the biggest drawback of the Cubs all season is timely hitting, getting the job done. And all of a sudden, when you get the bottom third of the lineup producing like it has, it almost, you don't want to say it's carried the Cubs, but it kind of has carried the Cubs, because when a bottom third of the lineup starts producing like that, it takes a whole lot of pressure off the top third and the top 2/3 of the lineup when, you don't have to take the top off, if you will. And you have all of a sudden, you don't have Ian Happ coming up with 2 outs and nobody on. All of a sudden, you have those guys in situations where they can cause some havoc too. They're, good hitters in baseball are much more dangerous generally when they're in run scoring situations and the opposing pitcher is throwing stressful pitches. And it helps them in the long run over the course of the, 9 innings. We saw today. We saw even yesterday. The Cubs, the offense, the way that it's going right now, they're putting up beer league softball numbers at this point. 41 runs in 3 games. And thank God for the awesome Pittsburgh Pirates, the Mark Gray slump buster. You've got a group that allows, one of the best pitchers in the game right now, right? And the Cubs put up how many runs today in his start? Now, it wasn't against him, but in his start. So you've got this offense that believes in itself all of a sudden. You've got an offense that is getting the timely knocks, doing the things that it didn't do well earlier. It happens to be some of the young, exciting players. So it's starting to create a little more of a vibe. And again, you got a favorable schedule of teams that will beat themselves. So even in games where the Cubs don't play great, they still, the Pirates are going to pirate. The Marlins are going to Marlin. The Nats are going to Nat, I hope, this weekend. And the Pirates will pirate again next week. They've got a lot of good things like in their ballpark to help build confidence. We joke about the Mark Gray slump buster, but there's nothing better than a little honey on the stinger to make you feel confident about yourself. And these guys are getting that, and you're seeing it play out. You're getting pretty good starting pitching. The starting pitching has probably been, of the 3 parts of the game, probably the least effective right now, because you're starting to get average starts where they had some really above average starts, but the defense is playing well. The bullpen is starting to get it done. And, and Chris here in this chat says it great. If we could go back and, what do we got? 20 some odd blown saves this year. You take half of those and the Cubs are in first place. So that is a weird, we're going to hopefully not look back on this season and do an autopsy and worry about that stuff. And hopefully we'll say, in spite of that, we somehow found a way to see the Cubs into the postseason this year, in spite of all that. But if not, that's obviously going to be a big part of the autopsy at the end. But this is a kind of a fun time. I'm seeing Cub fans having fun again. There's been some stretches, but this one feels, I don't know, knowing that the schedule is so favorable, this feels different. So, I love seeing Pete Crow Armstrong doing what he's doing. Miguel Amaya is doing what he's doing. In the end, this team, most people weren't, if you looked at the schedule, you couldn't jump off the train. You never jump off a train when you 60-70% of your, second half games are against, teams that are basically going to be selling the farm and putting AAA pitchers basically on the bump against your offense. So the Cubs can, benefit from all these late season drop-offs, because now some of the teams are falling out. Mid-season, they weren't. Everybody seemed to be all in except for 3 teams. Now teams are going to start you're going to start seeing more position players pitch, if you will. But this is good for the Cubs.
I want to, using a business thing, I want to I want to circle back to that a little later because that was Monday night, right? There's that ninth inning disgusted me.
Uh-huh.
And that's someone who's like pretty like I don't really care about like all the new rules like with position players pitching, but man, that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. You mentioned the bottom of the lineup, Miguel Amaya, Pico Armstrong. Here's PCA since July 27th, and this includes his 4-for-4 day on Wednesday, which included who would have thought back in during the All-Star break that we would be like, oh yeah, there's gonna become a point in time in the season when the opposing team is gonna intentionally walk PCA. But that did happen, and that set up Bethancourt's go ahead single in the ninth inning on Wednesday. But so he is batting. Here's his slash line in the last 29 games for PCA: 330, 387, 567 slug, 19 runs scored, 5 doubles, 3 triples, 4 home runs, which included that inside the Parker against Miami, 17 runs batted in, 8 stolen bases. Unbelievable stretch for PCA, and it's not fluky either. I know we talk about BABIP and all that stuff. He's hitting the ball hard, like at a 50% rate. Every other at bat that he's up there, it's like a rocket. It's 100 mph to the outfield, a line drive in the gap. Dude's crushing the ball. These aren't fluky hits. I mean, he's had a couple of them, and he's gone on base because he's one of the fastest players in baseball. But this dude's hitting line drives all over the field, left, center, off lefties. He's pulling the ball in the gap. He's hitting like upper tank shots in Miami. And then once he gets on the bases, that he's an automatic double. if the Cubs could play, if Yasmani Grandal is going to keep starting games against the Cubs, when the Cubs play the Pirates, PCA might set like an all-time record.
Just go. It's not an if but a win. Here the thing too is you just put you throw those stats that you just threw out and put that kind of a bat in the 2-hole or the 3-hole or the 4-hole in a lineup. You've got a really good offensive lineup. That's the production that PCA gave the Cubs out of the 8-hole. Literally, the bottom part of the lineup was at the 8. Usually, he's hitting in the 8, right, or is he hitting the 7?
No, he's even lower. It's 8, or I think it's 8, and then
8,
Miguel
9.
Amaya has been right behind him.
Yeah, so it's been him and Amaya. So he's been in the 8. So you've got that production out of the 8-hole. I mean, that A-hole. It sounds like I'm saying A-hole. Sorry. Out of that spot in the 8 spot in the lineup, and you that's insane. That's insane production because the Cubs are getting production from other guys, but getting the production. And we were a month ago. Do you remember a month ago, right before this heated up, we were at the point where some of these big Cubs accounts that kind of like bootlick a little bit were trying to explain away, saying, look, what did you expect? PCA was never expected to be a great offensive player. He was always going to be a defense and base running guy. No, that's never been the case. But some of those accounts were trying to kind of like soften the blow a little bit and kind of gaslight in the fact that this isn't to be expected. This is what PCA is supposed to be. He's supposed to be a quality offensive option, a top of the order kind of guy. And he was struggling so much because, again, this is what we talk about: 2 steps forward, 1 step back with the prospects. Get an opportunity. There's no substitute for experience in having the opportunity to both get innings, and taking the pressure off from really saying, who gives a crap? You go out there and suck. You're still going to be in center every day, because we need your defense. We want your base running. So go kid, let it hang out. Have a good time. All right. Figure it out on the fly, make adjustments. He's laying off that back left foot off speed a lot more now. And that's a big difference. You take that out of their arsenal. You start, he keeps laying off that. They got to go straight away. Now he's going to be able to sit back, drive a baseball the other way, go gap to gap. Boom. Super PCA. And it's so crazy to think that, a month and some change ago, we were hearing a lot of Cubs personalities try to tell us that to not be super excited about PCA, that it was only about the defense and the base running, and it really isn't. And so that's what makes it so exciting. And then you talk about the Miguel Amaya stuff. I mean, we haven't even touched on the fact that poor dude has gone up and down with injuries. He was the guy. He was the future behind the
Kevin,
dish.
Yes, his journey. I mean, this dude's been, again, like most of the international free agents, they're like with the team since they're teenagers. They're 16, 17 when they get signed. They're in one organization forever. And then, they get that one chance and they have to take it because, the service time, if you're not going to produce, and especially with him being injured being on that 40-man roster crunch. This year, he has no options. He could not be sent down because he would have to be put on waivers. And that's why the Cubs never did. And I remember it was July 3rd, right before they got on this great run. He had like a pass ball or just like a bad play behind the plate. His offense was brutal. And this was my most like meatball-y take of the season. I was like pretty much done with Miguel Amaya. I was like, because just it was everything. It was a combination of like the pass balls, the
defense wasn't there.
not throwing anyone out, like stealing base runners.
Grandal 2.0.
Yeah, and then on top of that was the atrocious hitting. Like he was worse than Yan Gomes, who was DFA'd. And let me read you the numbers because we just read off PCAs. Miguel Amaya has been even better, and this goes back to July 7th. This is 105 plate appearances. Miguel Amaya is slashing 358 with a 402 on base, 589 slug, 5 home runs. He's only striking out 11% of the time in the past month of games for him. Just incredible. He just think about how bad. Like I think his WRC plus was like in the 30s. So we're talking about he was like 60 to 70% worse than just average. And he's battled back all the way back to, let's see, what's he at here? I think he's back to close to league average, which again, catchers.
Okay.
Like catchers aren't going to produce like anyone the average hitting catcher is still a below average MLB hitter, but he's back there. So he's back there after this incredible run.
The Cubs have gone this entire season basically every single day because with Yan Gomes, Gomes was supposed to be good. He obviously father time hit. The entire season, the Cubs have been rolling out a Paul Bacco or a Greg Maddux catcher, like a Greg Maddux start catcher, or David Ross in the catchers on the lineup every single day. And this is, again, it's an absolute.
Forget about cat. It was like pitching numbers. These guys were hitting like in the 100s.
Yeah, it was bad. It was like pitcher numbers. And you've got this stuff going down, and you've got Amaya doing this. And again, I know that you've been a huge fan of Amaya for like a long time, and that's why your frustration was even worse because you've been a bigger fan of his game. And this guy is gone. And if you don't know the story, if you're someone that's listening that's not like into the Cubs, or you just don't know much about these backstories, Amaya was the Cubs catcher of the future. He was the dude. He was supposed to be absolutely fantastic. And then injuries, and didn't he have a 1 or 2 season ending?
He had a couple. I think he had Tommy John one year, so he couldn't catch for an entire year. So he was only like DHing. He had other injuries. He went from like the team's number 1 prospect, like 2019, I think, or like pre-COVID season. So, and then 2020 happened. He missed that year. More injuries, 2021, 2022. He finally gets healthy again. 2023 explodes at AA, goes up to AAA, keeps hitting, gets called up in May. I think he went back down and then gets called up again. And he was great, as a backup last year. And you're thinking, okay, Gomes, if anything goes wrong, Amaya can step in and he gets a bigger share of the playing time. And you're thinking, that's fine. This is how it was going to happen. You would have liked Gomes to stick around a little longer, or like him to hang on, but okay, it happened. Amaya's there. You're good. And Amaya was performing earlier in the season, and then he just hit a wall. And the numbers cratered. And it was everything around the game because it was the defense behind the plate. It was just everything was bad. Everything that could have gone wrong was. But the Cubs, we shit on them a lot. They didn't just give up on them. I do want to ask you this as a coach, Kevin. I was thinking about this yesterday, as I think he had 2 more hits on Tuesday night. I think he tied Tyler Houston, who remembers that name, for most consecutive
here in Vegas.
Most consecutive multi-hit games from a catcher.
Dude tried to throw his high school coach, athletic director, through the window of his press box.
And I was thinking, so this change, or this recent hot stretch with Amaya started because he got benched basically for like half a week. They reworked his stance. They reworked his his approach, his swing a little bit. There's the swing changes, But I always wonder, like, how much time do you let that player try to grow out themselves compared to when do you like? Because it was July. Like,
Mhm.
my questions was like, well, why didn't they do this in June? you know. But like, I guess you have to let that player figure it out first, and then it's like last resort. All right, we gotta. I don't know. I guess that's why the coaches get paid money, and maybe it's a mental thing. I don't know.
I mean, you
But
got to
what do you have on that?
Well, it's hard, man, because it's hard to know when to pull the plug. Like, when is an experiment no longer an experiment, and when is it now fact? And when you have a player that had the pedigree that he had coming in, which was a prospect that at their best was going to be elite. And you get these guys, and you see these guys work at practice, and look, everything about baseball, and that's the beautiful part about baseball. That's such a microcosm for life, is that everything is a game of adjustments. Every day is a new opportunity to make an adjustment to something that is at fault, or a squeaky wheel or whatever. You're always tweaking because nobody has the perfect swing. Nobody has the perfect fundamentals. So you're constantly, I mean, this is the whole thing with the swing analysis and all the an incredible amount of technology we have now, is nobody still has the perfect swing. I mean, the perfect swing is there, but for a human being to come completely emulate that consistently while also maintaining the hand-eye coordination and the actual mental approach and the focus, especially in front of large crowds, nobody has been able to put together. Barry Bonds is probably as close as you've gotten to seeing perfection, with a bat. And it's with these guys, you see them going over and over again, and you make these tweaks. And when you believe in a guy because you believe in the ceiling, which is sometimes what gives him the opportunity a lot longer than maybe most people would get. I don't think like another, an average catcher that was coming up, an unheralded prospect's going to get that look. I think he's going to have 2 weeks, and if it's poop, you go back down and flush it. But with Amaya, he was given the opportunity, and I think the perfect storm was that Yan Gomes was struggling, so it almost took the lifeline from the Cubs and forced their hand a little bit. And it's just like with PCA, the idea of letting someone play, going, hey, look, we really don't have any other options. So every day you need to go out and you need to just get better, but you're not going anywhere, bud. So play, play ball, not work ball. Go out there and just have some fun and grow. And with Amaya, he was given that I mean, both him and PCA's improvements are all predicated on the fact that these guys had the stress of worrying about, am I going to be up or down? Done, consolidated. You're staying here. Now just go. Because, I think PCA, especially early on, didn't they push him up and down once? Didn't he get sent down?
I think
for a
once,
second?
yeah, and then he started to get every day starts in center once. I think Talkman got hurt in June with a groin injury, and like since that point forward, it's like, all right, well, he's starting every day. He's the center fielder.
It's incredible, isn't it? How like when a player has like job security when it comes to even just geographic location, how much their mental game grows. And this is again, this is what you deal with players that are dealing with trade rumors or with contract stuff. It is a very difficult. It's being a pro athlete's hard, man. It's hard as hell. And
Yeah, I think we've talked. I think I've talked about this before. Just like the appreciation of what any pro athlete. But I always think about the everyday grind of a baseball player because it's 6 straight months. You're playing basically every day. For these young guys, and as fans, we think of the star prospects when they come up and they're like amazing, right? And we think, like, okay, well, when our guys come up, they're going to be great too. Like that's what we think, right? And then we lose the fact. I had this with Amaya because even despite his age, I think Amaya's 25, older rookie, but he came up a little later because of the injuries. Like he didn't have as much playing time because of those injuries in the minor leagues. He played last year as a backup. PCA this year. PCA is only 22. They're gonna need time to adjust. Even if they do get a little bit of success, which Amaya did have in 2023 when he was playing as the backup. We talk about it. Even if Michael Busch early on, remember? Like, yes, he was great, and then they adjusted. He had to readjust, and now there's the battle back and forth. And that's what was going to happen with PCA as well. Like it's happened in the other way. He came up, struggled. He had that little reset after the All-Star break, started to hit the ball harder, started to lay off pitches. Now he's been on fire. And hey, I wouldn't be surprised like if he has a tough September, because maybe a pitchers readjust. That's just the ebbs and flow of how things are going to work.
It's inevitable.
But that's what's been so great about this stretch, is that it has been the bottom of the lineup that has picked up the offense, because we know that other guys are gonna have to step up as well. You know, eventually you're gonna have to. It's gonna have to flip around again. You know, Michael Bush is gonna have to get hot again. Ian Happ is gonna have to keep producing. Say Suzuki's been fantastic basically every month except for May. You know, you want to see a little bit more from Cody Bellinger, but he's still giving you clutch hits. You know, you want Horner to get on a roll here again. But you have your 8-9 hitters who are hitting like 3-4 hitters. So hey, you'll take it right now.
And the thing, you mentioned it too. You talked about the grind, and nobody sees this. This is the hard part about this. Is the life of a professional athlete. Caleb Williams addressed it, I think, with an interview too, where he said, "This is hard. Like, this is hard. You're here early and you're leaving late. You gotta take in all this information, all this growth. And when you look at the grind and you look at, like, say, what PCA did, this makes me like him more. This makes me like Miguel Amaya more, for the one explicit reason that we've seen other players with ability come through. I mean, let's not totally make fun of it, but let's harp on the rise of the Phoenix with the White Sox at the beginning of the season. Players that came out of the gate hot. Oh my God, this guy's gonna be great. League adjusted, it's over. Like, and you're figured out. And how many players have come through that had that, where it was like they had some ability, but once they got to the show and it was time to like make those, because it's exhausting. The grind, what they say is what everyone calls the grind, is daily, almost minute by minute adjustments, because everybody else is not just going to stay put on what they know. Everybody is making adjustments. And if you're not making adjustments, the game will pass you by. And you see some of these talented individuals. I'm sorry, but this is the byproduct. Javi Baez's downfall is 100% the byproduct of the game now, because his physical ability to do it like he did it is gone, or not gone, but it's diminished. So now he's got to rely on being an older ball player. He can't do that because he never really, we know, I mean, I can tell you, he just never put in the time. And dude was eating McDonald's, crushing McDonald's in the clubhouse or in the tunnel. And we're seeing that kind of stuff with these guys as it goes down. Then you look at a guy like that you see struggle, that had all the ability and has never tasted that struggle. And instead of turning tail and running, you know, they put on their big boy pants and they hit the lab and they get the work in. And I love this. This is what young athletes of all people, and just people in general, this right here is one of my favorite graphics, because people on the outside, fans, will look at the top and you get the iceberg illusion, and they see just the top of the iceberg. They see this thing floating up top above the water, and they're like, what's the hell's wrong with this? This player has, you know, why is this guy not getting the job done? What is the deal here? You know, and they boo, you know, they're mad. This guy sucks. Screw this guy. Who's up next? And they don't know that beneath the surface, these dudes are working. They're getting extras. They're there before everybody. They're there after everybody leaves. They're getting extra hacks in the cage as much as their hands will allow. They're taking the reps. They're looking at the film, and they're doing things. They're taking care of their body. They're putting in the time in the weight room. They're emulating good habits, and they're sacrificing to get to a certain point. And only, you know, most fans will only see that top part of the iceberg. They're going to see results, and they're not seeing the process. And with these players, the process is what's going to get them to that peak, where we're going to see where that top of the iceberg, if you will. The higher it goes, you know, get the Everest iceberg is like the golden potential. And, you know, they don't, you know, fans don't, you know, they don't see this grind. And that's what makes it, this is why being a professional baseball player is so gosh darn difficult, whether it's your body breaking down or your, you know, the adjustments that people with constant evaluation of data have on you. I mean, these guys probably know what what you're allergic to, you know, with breakfast. And so, you know, I mean, it is so detail oriented how much information these teams have on someone. So you can't be complacent. You can't be on your heels. You have to always be driving forward and adjusting. And seeing a guy like Pete Crow Armstrong struggle and adjust, seeing Amaya really struggle, adjust, and get to this point, it tells you a lot about their character. And, you know, say what you want if you're not a fan of Pete Crow Armstrong and how he acts around the, you know, PCA, you know, with his antics on the field, you know, the emotion he shows in the body language and the demonstrative stuff. I give a shit about what he does in that time when nobody's watching, when you're not on the spotlight, but when it's time to get better, which is when these guys really improve. And it's becoming blatantly obvious that Pete Crow Armstrong, PCA, and Miguel Amaya take that shit seriously. And I love that. That endears me to them more. You said it perfectly. They're going to get figured out again, and they're going to have to make more adjustments. We're going to get the 2-step forward, 1 step back, 2-step forward. They're going to continue to need to adjust. And that's the life of a major league, baseball player who wants to be a successful hitter and that isn't relying on talent alone. And these guys are doing that. We're seeing other guys that can do that. From everything I've heard about Matt Shaw, he's that kind of worker. Everything that I've heard from people from Maryland, hard worker, he's the bulldog. He's the guy that you got to tell, hey man, let everybody else hit too. Can they have a couple hacks? Those kind of players are about to come up through the system, I hope, with the Cubs. And you mix that in with some of these other guys. And for the older players, it's invigorating because they see those guys successful. They want to start playing up to their level because they see those expectations. And all of a sudden, the bottom of the lineup is challenging the top of the lineup, and both of them are challenging the middle of the lineup. And all of a sudden, these guys are fighting in the bat rack. And it's not about losing or winning. It's about playing, about challenging each other on this race. And the more you elevate your teammates, everything else falls into place. You're going to have some bad hops here and there, but when you have a team that's challenging each other, playing top this, you're going to have a team that's going to start playing some really, really good baseball. And right now, the Cubs feels like the bottom third of the lineup getting it together created this top this mentality. And it all goes back to the character and integrity of those guys to work their butts off and to put the time in to grow in spite of the failure, because failure teaches you everything about an individual's character. Winners that does nothing. It's not revealing. Losing reveals your character. They always say baseball doesn't build character, it reveals it. This is why. It's a game you fail 7 out of 10 times and you're considered great. So I love the fact that they're doing this, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. But like you said, expect some of these struggles. It's going to happen again. They're going to hit a wall, but they're going to adjust. I have faith that they will adjust because they've shown now they can. And that's the fun part, because especially what Pete Crow Armstrong does, man, the fact that he can just drop a bunt down at any point and beat that out is so dangerous. It's one of my favorite things ever about PCA, is that at any moment he can just, oh, gotcha. Sorry, if you don't pick this ball cleanly, even if you know it's coming, you're not going to be able to defend it unless you're perfect. And he puts pressure on defense too. So I look at the Little League World Series, right? Hey, one on a bunt, put the pressure on, make the plays.
PCA, the speed alone, I think, with the new pickoff rules, you can only throw over, 3 times max. The bigger bases, that I think that's a little overrated, but I think it's more the pickoff stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's just such a huge advantage now. And that's already with Nico Horner, who stole like more than 40 bases in 2023. PCA in a full season can go, I think he can if he can get on base enough, which again, right now he's on a great stretch, but I think he might have 100 stolen base season out of PCA.
Isn't it nuts too? By the way, think about this. Think about what some of these younger guys are doing in the farm. Like guys like Shaw, these guys, they're stealing a ton of bases too.
Triantos has like 40.
Oh my God. He's like already almost. That guy is going to probably be like a 30-30 guy in the minor leagues if he doesn't get called up sooner or later, because 45 stolen bases. I mean, there's some speed kills and creates havoc, especially in today's game.
But I think Shaw could be like 20-30 this year. There's a lot of Cam Smith. Oh, by the way, a quick aside here.
28 stolen bases. I mean,
Cam Smith, Cubs first round pick this year out of Florida State, third baseman. Huge exit velocity numbers put out there. Hits the ball hard, power to all fields. He got assigned to Low A Myrtle Beach. He struggled his first week. I think he went like 2 for 19. And then his second week, all he did was hit a home run in 6 straight games. He got promoted to South Bend. I think he got 2 hits in his first game there. So great for Cam Smith. Dude was just killing the ball. Against, I think it was the A's, or not the A's, the Tampa Bay Rays, single A affiliate out there in Carolina last week that got his promotion. So Cam Smith doing it. One quick thing on Matt Shaw, I saw he got hurt making a play on Sunday. I think he had a little back strain. I don't think he's played. It's only been like 2 games, but Anytime I hear back strain, I'm like, I don't like that.
Triggered.
So sit him down as long as you need to.
Yeah, he hasn't played since the 28th or 25th,
Yeah.
excuse me. So
Yeah, it happened on Sunday. He got taken out like in the 3rd inning. So, that's not too great because he was also on fire at AAA. One quick thing before we get to the Michael Bush discussion and Patrick Wisdom Career Council. The one negative from this reach, not so much recent. I think it's actually been pretty decent in August. But Kyle Hendricks on Wednesday, and I think he got screwed over too because the defense. I don't know what happens. He got a little. I forget who it was a couple years ago. I remember when Darvish was still with the Cubs, and when he was struggling early, the defense would just something weird would happen on defense. It wouldn't necessarily be an error, but like a play wouldn't be made, and then it would spiral. That kind of happened today with Hendricks. He had a pop up that would have ended the 2nd inning. Isaac Paredes goes back. He backpedals, doesn't get to it. Dansby Swanson couldn't get to it in short left. Falls in, 2-run score, and like another ground rule double happens. Another run scores. It was the shortest outing of his MLB career, 1 2/3 innings. He gets charged with 6 runs, I believe. But despite all that, just despite the bad defensive play there, I mean, he gave up a home run in the 1st inning to Brian Reynolds. He just looks like a guy who's just at the end here. And if the Cubs want again, it's tough because the Braves are now on fire again. The Braves are 8-2. They're winning again Wednesday night, and they're the ones in with the third wild card spot. So maybe this is all for naught, but it does look like the Cubs are at least going to keep us entertained here for the next 5 weeks. But if they are serious about, staying in contention here, Kyle Hendricks can't start again. Jordan Wicks has been on rehab assignment with Iowa for a couple weeks. I think he's been pretty good his last 2 times out. I think he pitched Sunday. He had like 4 2/3 innings. I think he only gave up 1 hit, maybe no runs. In my mind, he has to start the next time through the rotation. It can't be Kyle Hendricks. It just can't be. I'm sorry. I get it. 2016, last guy from the 2016 team. Love it. He's always going to be remembered for that. Pitched in like 2 of the most important games, franchise history. But I don't need to see Kyle Hendricks start. Hey, if you want to send him off in like at the end of September, once the Cubs are finally eliminated, if it comes to that point, or whichever way.
Yeah.
If it comes to a point where like the game is kind of meaningless in terms of in the standings and he's still on the roster and you want to give him his final farewell at Wrigley, okay, have him pitch out of the bullpen. He gets an out and then, he gets the standing ovation off the field. But in terms of starting until that point, I don't need to see that. Guys, if you thought that you really wanted all those guys to stick around from the core, you're getting a taste of what it was going to kind of feel like.
Yeah.
Because with Kyle Hendricks is the last guy standing, and it has not been pretty. And even when he does have a successful outing, it's a struggle. It's like 5 innings, rockets being caught, and it's like, all right, we got Kyle to go 5 innings. Let's hand over to the bullpen.
When a position player pitches, because everyone could just sit back and just
again, the Cubs are still they're still in it. Damn, they're technically still in contention for the wild card and maybe in the division. Maybe the Brewers stumble in September. Who knows? But if the Cubs are serious here, you can't be doing Kyle Hendricks every 5th day because every time he starts, it's the same thing. Again, even on his best day, he's only going 5 innings. You're gonna drain the bullpen. Your bullpen's gonna go at least 4 innings. It has to be Jordan Wicks next time out. Kevin, what do you think? Kyle Hendricks, you gotta leave the feelings at the door.
It's got to be somebody else. Look. Everyone knows that Kyle Hendricks is beloved. He's the last guard. He is the last one, right? He's the Highlander for as far as the the core 2016 team is concerned. But as bad as we want Kyle Hendricks to be something, it's just it's just not there. It's the old wish in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up first. And it just sucks. Reality sucks, man. Getting old sucks. I can attest to that. Fuck. And this is the reality of it. Sooner or later, they're going to come and take the jersey off your back. There's never a player that has never had that jersey. It's as guaranteed as death and taxes to get that jersey ripped off your back sooner or later. And you know what? Kyle Hendricks this year, honestly, a lot of people felt he probably should have had it taken away back in May. I mean, he had like a 13 ERA at that point. It was really bad. And the Cubs stuck with him, and he's had a couple really good. I got to see him. I was there for the Hendricks rebound game at Wrigley. I wore my Grateful Dead Cubs shirt, just from Homage, our sponsor. Check him out.
It's unfortunate the Cubs don't have any more games against the Cardinals, because that's like Kyle Hendricks could be 50, roll out of bed, and still throw 7 like 4 hits, 1 run against the Cardinals. But unfortunately, the Cubs don't play the Cardinals the rest of the season.
Who was he playing? That day. It was the Giants, I believe. So that was
Giants?
fine.
Okay.
But yeah, it sucks. But this is the reality of life, And this is weird too, because I think that 2016 was 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
I mean, that 10 years is a baseball career. I mean, for most average major leaguers, people could stick around. Some of the elite ones always do, but this is a different time period too. The body, we see, KB struggling over, in Colorado, and I know that he's got some things that he's going through that just really, really are. I don't know if his body is doing the same things if he was just always a Cub and if there was never a question that he was a Cub, but I do know that the body is struggling. Javi, we're seeing the body struggle, and we're seeing, he's done for the year now, right? I think they put him on season-ending
hip surgery, yeah.
Yeah, Rizzo's been in and out. The only one that's so funny, the only one that is maintaining this elite status is the guy with the fucking fat guy body, and Kyle, well, at least the perceived fat guy body, is in Kyle Schwarber, the meatball, the Schwarbino. You know what? Because you can't pull fat. No, so right, John Crook. But this has been.
But a quick thing on Schwarber. During his time with the Cubs, he's the guy who had the serious injury. He had the torn ACL in 2016, and then came back for the World Series.
Yeah, who
would have thought? Would have thought? Can you imagine, like, beginning of 2016, right after he goes down, with that terrible injury, and I think like the broken ankle as well. It's like, by the way, guys, out of all these, he's gonna be the best player in 10 years.
I mean, he was obviously the best swing choir singer, but who knew that he was also going to be that?
Multi-talent.
But this is the hard part about baseball too, and this is us. This is all of us. This is a weird come to Jesus moment for a lot of fans because, man, the stars of your era are getting up there now. It was like me when you see Ryan Sandberg get into the Hall of Fame, and then you see like Ryan Sandberg lose his hair, and then you see Ryan Sandberg go through prostate cancer treatment, something that happens to old dudes like my dad. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh boy, you realize that the life moves pretty fast, right? If you don't stop and look around for a second, you just might miss something, right, Ferris? So this is an interesting part about the whole thing too. But seeing, with Hendricks, it makes us all feel human. It makes us feel mortal. Seeing him struggle like this, and you wish him the best. You want a guy like that to come back and be a part of your coaching staff. And that's another thing that I'm sure he provides outside of his performances, is he is a mentor figure for these guys, even down the stretch. That voice in the clubhouse is going to be highly effective if the Cubs can make some sort of a run here to make the postseason. You got someone with that experience, and not many dudes in that locker room do. Him, Dansby. Does Ian Happ really have real playoff experience? I mean, I don't feel like Ian really has much. I mean, Belly. Yeah, let's go with Belly too. Belly's tasted that. But you need that, and in the pitching, especially in that pitching staff. What is it, Justin's name? Maybe Jamison Tyon might be the only one with like some
Tyon's
postseason
the other
experience.
veteran guy, yeah.
Yeah, so Smiley's gone. Fired into the core of the Sun, so he can sign with a contender. And go ahead.
No. Smiley's sticking around.
Oh, is he sticking around now? I thought they.
Well, they put him on. They put him on waivers. But then it came out the day after that if no one claimed him, that they're just gonna still keep him on the team.
Oh, okay.
So it was different from the Hector Neris. That was just like, please, please leave.
Okay, so I didn't see that. Okay, good. Well, I figured that was something like let him go sign with a team that needed him, pick him up on waivers. I mean, he's going through waivers though, right? I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone could theoretically claim.
They could, yes. They have by the end of Wednesday night.
And that's a salary move. From what I understood, from what I read too, that might be a salary move from the Cubs to try and like lower that
Yeah, that
luxury cap
that
number.
one was definitely. It's like, hey, he's lefty. He's been really good. A little postseason experience. You
Look
guys
at
need a
this
lefty.
worm. Can you eat this lovely worm?
It's like
No, that's not a hook.
forget that you still have to pay him $4.5 million. But by the way, I want to have Drew Smyly's agent because his contract, the way it was set up with the vesting options from last year that kicked in this year that automatically kicked in for next year. Beautiful for Drew Smyly. Good for him. Good for him and his agent.
Got some. It's all about the details and the paperwork, right?
I think he still has because he still has an option year for 2025, but he has a $2.5 million buyout, and that's gonna be bought out. But like, hey, that's another 2.5 that Drew Smyly is gonna get.
So question on this too, kind of like piggybacking on like again Hendrick kind of struggling in the bullpen and some of these arms. Do you feel like the Cubs are dodging a bullet? Dodging a bullet by Merriweather going on the IR. Is this?
What do you mean?
Or is this? I mean, because he hasn't been bad, but like I don't know. I feel like he's been the new punching bag, I guess.
No, no. I mean, he has been bad. I think that he's just the guy who he got hurt in April, was out for like 3.5 months, came back. He had that brutal outing on Sunday against the Marlins. His velocity went down, and then he goes on the IL with was like right knee tendonitis. I think he just was never healthy.
Yeah. It looks like he has blowups because when you look at his numbers, smoke ring, blow up, smoke ring, blow up. So it's a bad. The blowups I think become more memorable. Maybe
I remember, and that's what happened to him at the beginning of 2023. Like early on, he had that game against the Brewers. I remember it was like the opening series, that Sunday game. He gave up 5 runs. We were like, oh, this fucking guy. And then he was one of the best relievers for the Cubs the rest of the way. But I think this year with the struggles and even hearing him talk about it, I think it was the day before he got put on the IL. He was like, I'm physically still not feeling that great. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for him, but I mean, I think it's good and bad because you wanted him to be back, at least back if he was healthy, which proved to be not the case. But I mean, they're gonna probably keep him on the 40-man through the winter, and you hope that he's healthy to start next season.
Palencia's up now, right? They dropped
Palencia's up. They brought up Keegan Thompson.
What's old has become new. It's like it's back in April and May now. Same guys.
Well, that the one thing about the injuries, and then talking about Kyle Hendricks was unlike the Amaya situation where it's like he didn't have an option, so like he was going to stick around no matter what. He had to figure it out. He was going to get this year to figure it out. He was either going to sink or swim. They're going to give him as much rope as possible there. If one of these 3 guys never gets injured or comes back in like sooner than that they would have hoped, I don't think Kyle Hendricks probably is gone since like June. Since June, Jordan Wicks went back on the injured list. Ben Brown went on the injured list. Cade Horton was shut down. One of those 3 guys, and it looks like Jordan Wicks is going to come back for September, so that's good. But if one of those 3 guys, and more likely Ben Brown or Jordan Wicks, since they were already up. But if either of those guys just stick around, I think Kyle Hendricks is out of here like a month ago at least. But they just weren't, and like they basically needed to pitch Kyle Hendricks out of necessity more than, hey, you're good. And that's not, man. That's why when we look back at this season, because as optimistic as I still want to be, it's
when we're talking to our therapists about the season,
right? when we're like after a brutal Bears loss, like in
drinking
November,
ayahuasca,
and it's just like
we're
gray,
in our dark room with Aaron Rodgers.
Just gray and cold. We're gonna be looking back. Like, I remember when the Cubs blew like 10 games in 3 weeks, or like when the offense couldn't hit for a month again, or when the defense was awful for the first 2 months for some reason.
Traded Cooper Duper and broke my heart.
Whatever happened to him?
It feels like it was forever ago. Yeah, where is Garrett Cooper? Cooper Duper.
Oh man,
That was my favorite little joke, but then people started taking it away.
well, great segue. Garrett Cooper started the year as like that backup first baseman, DH, right-handed option, bench guy, and Garrett Cooper was basically ousted away once Patrick Wisdom came back from the IL. Patrick Wisdom isn't really playing a lot right now, but he's Craig Counsell's favorite pinch hitter whenever there's a lefty on the mound. On Wednesday, Wisdom pinch hit for Michael Busch again with, I think it was Aroldis Chapman was pitching. The Pirates bring out a righty, and then Counsell counters with Mike Tauchman. Kevin, you said you want to go on a rant here. Before that, I don't think I minded this one because I think ultimately he wanted Tauchman versus a righty. So, I mean, it was either going to be Busch against Aroldis Chapman.
It was a move to burn a player without taking a swing. But that's why the heck. Oh, come on!
You love all those moves. They used to happen all the time with the pitchers.
I'm just making sure that's what you're saying, right? You're assuming you think that it might have been a move to get them to go to the pen.
It was either going to be Busch against Chapman. Or, Wisdom comes. They were going to make the pitching change.
That's the thing we're here. I mean,
but even if they weren't, this is a continuous thing where Michael Busch is just being auto pinch hit for when a late in a game against a lefty, and it's with Patrick Wisdom, who hasn't really come through. And Kevin, go off. I know you've been seething.
I've been very angry. Well, look, I mean, look. Sometimes it's possible to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, but it's also sometimes possible to snag defeat from the jaws of victory. And when you have a player like Michael Busch, who has been one of the Cubs' best hitters all season long, late in the ball games, especially if he's a future guy, you want him in that situation, sink or swim. We're not pinch hitting for a guy like Bellinger, are we? And so when we look at numbers, tell me this. First off, you have one hitter who is got a 425 slugging, 717 OPS, a 293 on base percentage, and a 219 batting average with 29 strikeouts, 3 home runs, and 16 RBIs this year, and 82 plate appearances against lefties. One. Or you have a guy in 70 plate appearances against lefty, has a 751 OPS, a 422 slugging, a 266 batting average, only struck out 19 times, has 17 hits, 12 runs scored, homer, triple, 5 doubles. You're pinch hitting someone with worse numbers in this situation. You're replacing someone that actually has proven to be a better hitter in that spot. And then I hear, okay, well, some of the people that like to apologize for the Craig Counsell moves of pinch hitting for arguably your best hitter is the power pitchers. He doesn't hit power pitchers well. Yet, are we going to ignore the fact that against power pitchers, Patrick Wisdom is one of the worst, if not the worst hitter in the Cubs lineup against power pitchers. He actually hits against finesse pitchers far better, almost 100 points better, actually. Whereas, let's see if we pull up the old power pitcher number versus finesse. Yeah, it's not good for Michael Busch. They're basically the same. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking. Well, shit, fuck me. I'm looking at Patrick Wisdom. 192 batting average against power pitchers with a 283 on base percentage for Patrick Wisdom. He does have 2 homers against power pitchers, but 9 hits in 54 plate appearances against power pitchers. Not too bad for good old Michael Busch, who has a 227, 853 OPS against power pitchers. I'm not sure where this argument that he can't hit power pitchers comes from, considering the fact that he literally has a freaking incredibly good 853 OPS against power pitchers. I don't know why we keep arguing why he should be pulled against power pitchers. He's excellent. He's actually fantastic against power pitchers. So I don't know. Maybe you should pull him against finesse pitchers, but pulling Michael Busch.
Now, is that against all or just righty, or is that combined? Where are the lefty numbers? Because I guess that would be the argument.
You're talking about lefty power pitchers? I don't have that number with me. I have power pitchers, and then I have versus lefty versus righty.
Okay.
All of the numbers against lefties, still better for Michael Busch. All of the numbers against righties, still better for Michael Busch. So in the end, all of the numbers, theoretically, you'd have to assume if the numbers are both better for Busch on all those fronts, that his have to creep up and be better than Wisdom. And that I just don't have access to the lefty power versus the righty power pitchers.
Yeah.
But Patrick Wisdom hasn't been good against left-handed pitchers since 2021. We keep going back to he's good against lefties. He hasn't been good in 2022. He wasn't good in 2023. Hasn't been good in 2024. It's not 2021 anymore, and that's where everyone keeps going back to that. That ship sailed 3 years ago. It's not 3 years ago. It's not 2021. And so Craig Counsell is doing this, and he's playing these numbers, and maybe it's, I don't know what it is, but he did it earlier in the season. Remember when he pinch hit for Nick Madrigal in a contact situation, and then the next day pinch hit for Patrick Wisdom with Nick Madrigal in a situation where you needed a long ball. I mean, I don't know. I just think that in my set, I hate to say this because I know Patrick Wisdom as well. Like, it's almost like you need to cut Patrick Wisdom just to take the tool out of the toolbox, because it's driving me freaking nuts. And I'm not the only one. And it's driving me insane that we see it over and over again. And you see the same result. Someone's like, well, he pinch hit for Wisdom last week, and then Wisdom hit a double. No, Wisdom hit a double in his second at bat. He struck out in the pinch hit high leverage situation, but because he got an opportunity to hit a second time in a game that was already sealed, he hit a double. It's not the same thing. So Craig Counsell needs to stop doing it. And it's making me question Craig Counsell as a manager. You guys know how much I'm a big fan of Pat Murphy. He's been one of my favorite managers in general since I was in high school. Craig Counsell has never won without Pat Murphy. Pat Murphy's won just fine without Craig Counsell. He's a Hall of Fame college coach. But Craig Counsell at the major league level has never won as a manager without Pat Murphy in the dugout. And it makes me wonder, it makes me question whether or not Counsell is who he is. I know Pat Murphy's who he is. The Brewers are doing the same thing with less talent this year than they did last year, with the guy in the dugout that is the only consistent thing that's still in the dugout compared to last year. Counsell in a different dugout is up and down, somewhere hovering around 500. And some of these decisions, you wonder about the pitching decisions that he's made with Neris, and throwing Neris out for a second inning or bringing him back on 1 day rest after throwing him 6 outs, things like that. We start wondering about these moves. And it's the same thing with Wisdom. This one's going to, sit in my crawl for a long time, because I want to see Michael Busch homer. More so, it pissed me off last week because I needed one base to win a huge parlay with Michael Busch. I needed one total base from Michael Busch to hit a pretty nice plus 700 parlay, and he pinch hit for him. So that broke my heart a little bit too. So I'm a little pissed about that too. But look, stop doing it. Stop it. Michael Jordan gift. Stop it. Just take the crack. Patrick Wisdom is the crack in the crack pipe for Craig Counsell. He needs to kick the habit and go with the guy that has the better numbers in high leverage situations against lefties. All of those. Michael Busch, please. Embrace the Busch.
I do remember talking about the top 3 hitters for the Cubs at the All-Star break. It was Busch, Happ, Suzuki. Those 3 guys. He has been bad. I think he's been fine. Like, still has like a above 700 OPS. So he hasn't been awful, but he has struggled in the second half. More strikeouts. That's happened all year long. That's still a little concerning, but yeah, I don't know. Some of those situations, honestly, it's the early at bats that bother me more than because regardless, it's like when you boil it down, it's kind of come down to a guy has like a 22% chance versus like a guy who has like 20% chance to get on base or get a hit at least. So I don't know. It kind of just reminds me. I think the bigger point is like
future piece compared to Patrick Wisdom, who doesn't have a future with the Cubs. Busch is a future guy. You want that guy.
Well, like, you're still going for the win. It's like who do you? Even though he hasn't, he still does have a better like ISO, isolated power numbers. Is Patrick Wisdom, but I think it's because it's Patrick Wisdom. Because like if it's someone else, I think it's more the option, not so much. Like if it was somebody else, Kevin, let's say it was Matt Shaw's up and he's like the main pinch hitter in these situations, would you still be upset over that?
Well, if he's getting the job done, no. But Patrick Wisdom hasn't gotten the job done well. He's gotten it done on occasion, and here's me though. I want a guy like Michael Busch. Look, you can look like this. I don't understand why people. Oh man, he looks terrible today. Got a pitch hit for, bro. every at bat is an absolutely new moment. Like you could have a bad day, you could have 2 bad at bats, but the beautiful part about baseball is you get it figured out in your 3rd or 4th at bat. You see something different, something, and by pulling Michael Busch, it doesn't allow the kid to figure out in-game adjustments. You look bad today, you're grabbing some pine, someone else is going to do it for you because you look bad today. Instead of saying, hey, you look pretty bad in those first 2 at bats, make some adjustments in-game now, because in a World Series game, for example, you're not going to be able to say, hey, let's just pull him and we'll get somebody else out there. You want those guys making those adjustments for their latter half of the ball game. And Busch getting pulled for that doesn't give him the opportunity to make those adjustments on the fly. And for development reasons, again, I want that guy learning way more than I want Patrick Wisdom getting an opportunity. I just, in me, if Matt Shaw was Patrick Wisdom's age on the other side of 30, I would probably say no. But Matt Shaw is, 24. I would love to see. I like to see the young guys go out there. The more you see an opportunity in timely situations, the more comfortable you get and the better you get at it usually. So you want those guys going out there. And I like letting guys sink or swim. I'm not a veteran guy. I've always, to a fault, I've always been fine with err to the side of letting the younger pups go out there and just maybe trip over something and have success because they're naturally just physically better at that point. And Michael Busch is physically better than Patrick Wisdom. Always, I don't think it's ever been close. And so I would rather have Michael Busch going up there and having these valuable at bats, especially in these key moments, so that future situations aren't going to be so bright for him under the spotlight.
Right. I think that is the bigger point here, is like eventually you're going to want to count on him against a lefty late in the game. It's like, if he doesn't get these opportunities, how is he ever going to learn? Looking at the rest of the Cubs schedule here the next couple of weeks, they end this road trip against the Nationals, 3 games this weekend starting Friday, back at home starting Labor Day against the Pirates. So hopefully that's another ass kicking for the Cubs against them. And then just 2 hard as hell series back to back. Dodgers on the road, and then the Yankees back to back. And then it gets soft again against the Rockies, the A's, the Nationals again. So again, the Cubs are going to have a chance here to keep winning. If they can leave that Yankees series still within a couple games, they're going to have a shot in September. But we also need the Braves to start losing games, because all of a sudden they're winning. Cubs end the season with, let's see. So it's the Nationals, the Pirates, and then it's the Yankees, Dodgers. And I'm already mad about this series. I'm pre-mad. It happened last September. I hope it doesn't happen again, but I am already annoyed at that series against the Rockies in Colorado. It's some bullshit's gonna happen. James, I love Shota Minaga. He's been amazing this year. I don't think I want to see him pitching that ballpark. I have a feeling he's gonna have like a 5 home run allowed game. I'm so scared of it. Jameson Taillon, who's been pretty bad since the trade deadline, I don't want to see him pitching there, because this dude's giving a hard hit ball left and right too.
Yep. No Hendricks.
Yeah, no, definitely. Can you imagine if it lines up somehow? It lines up.
Take me over. Ryan McMahon Day.
I just remember that series from last year when they went out west, and it's like, all right, guys, you got the Rockies, take advantage. PCA got called up, and it's like, all right, here we go, let's get hot, and they lost the series. You're like, what the fuck? And then they got
losing to the Marlins at all.
And they got swept by the Diamondbacks. That basically sunk those chances. But after Colorado, it's the A's back at home, and then 4 games against the Nationals. The Nationals are bad, but they're not a pushover. They have some young stars on that team. Dylan Cruz just came up. They have James Wood, who's been fantastic for them. So they're, we're going to see them this weekend. They're not a complete pushover, but they are also, below 500 teams. So you should be able. They're 12 games under. That's a series you need to win, and hopefully the Cubs get another sweep, maybe. But I don't know. Is there any way, Kevin, where not a success, but is there any way that you won't be let down? How could I even phrase it? If the Cubs win 90 games and they don't make the playoffs, how are you feeling?
So wait, repeat that. If the Cubs win 90 games and they don't make the playoffs,
And they don't make the playoffs, how are you feeling?
I think what a heck of a run, but boy, I sure wish you wouldn't have blown however many saves earlier in the season, because getting there is pretty impressive, but it's also a testament to how bad the rest of baseball became.
No, I think that's becomes how great the rest of the baseball all suddenly became. If they win 90 and don't make the playoffs, because that means they would have to go. Let's see,
playoffs are bust for me.
They'd have to go 22 and what, like 10? Not even 22 and 8.
Yeah, I'm a playoff or bust.
6. Yeah, no, that's what's man. You mentioned it earlier. I think everyone's gonna remember the blown saves just because you're that close. The 1-run losses, but like that's kind of the frustrating thing about this team is that at one point, like you can go back in April, May, June, every month, there was always something different, and we're seeing it now, kind of with the starting pitching, where before it was carrying the team, now it's regressing.
Mm-hmm.
Every aspect of the team has at one point like cost them wins. The hitting was awful in May and June. The defense was awful in April and May. The bullpen was bad until like June. The starting pitching has been kind of bad recently. It's just like, God. But then you get these stretches. Again, we're talking about 6 weeks since the 4th of July where they've been playing like 650 ball. Amazing, like 95 win pace. It's like, why can't you do that throughout the these? And I don't want to do the injury blame game because every team, the Milwaukee Brewers, hand it to them. I get that they're just better than we thought. They're just better than we thought. Their starting rotation. They lost Corbin Burns. They haven't had Brandon Woodruff. They've had injuries up and down their rotation, and they're just surviving. Their offense isn't that great, but they're hitting with runners in scoring position. Their bullpen is fantastic, as it always seems to be. I mean, Willie Adames is having a great season. William Contreras is, top 3, top 5 catcher. They lost their start. Christian Yelich, back surgery, out for the year. Doesn't matter. Like, I shout out to them.
Yep.
They're the new Cardinals. They're the new team that just finds a way. I hate it, but I do respect that. And they've been a thorn on the Cubs side for a while now. Yeah, just man. I put in a little title here. Just maybe it's a little too late, but I'll rather take the annoyance of maybe like missing the playoffs, other than them just laying down. Because like they could have easily laid down after like the trade deadline, or if remember that Cleveland series, they get swept. That first game, they have the lead, they get screwed by the home plate umpire. That entire series, the umpiring was awful. They could have laid down. They could have been like, "Yeah, well, that's it. We're done. Let's just pack it in, boys." But they're still playing good ball, thanks to the Taylor Swift candle, I guess. Shout out the Swifties. I do think it was weird. The candle said, "This smells like Taylor Swift." Weird, but you guys do you. Kevin, any other thoughts here? Oh, well, any other thoughts? And I do want to bring up some rumors type stuff just to wrap up the show tonight.
I mean, right now it's just fun to watch baseball right now. I mean, meaningful baseball in September is special, and we're about to hit September, and the Cubs aren't dead in the water. Sorry, Sox fans. My condolences. You guys have been eliminated for a couple weeks now, but this is fun. This is what makes it fun. But having fun in September isn't the same as competing. For me, playoffs are bust. That's been my motto the entire season. It doesn't matter how many wins it takes. It takes what it takes. But if this Cubs team, when half the teams in the entire league make the postseason and the Cubs aren't one of those teams, I'm disappointed, period. At this point. Last year, cool, that was fun. This year, not so much. There's no grace period. We're out of the honeymoon. This is win or shut up and fix it, or get off the hot seat. Get on the hot seat or whatever. So enjoy this time, but it's win or go home, and it's win or nothing to me. So, don't be okay with mediocrity. Don't be okay with just almost making it. Cubs fans, we deserve a playoff team year in and year out, especially in this situation, the way the system's set up to allow teams. Every other division has freaking like 2 or 3 teams that are making the postseason. No excuse for the Cubs in the weak Central to not be one of those teams.
Couple rumors that I do want to hit on just to end this week's show. And again, everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube right now, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. Bruce Levine a week ago dropped Corbin Burns as the Cubs' top priority in free agency. I think that was more of his opinion, but again, as much as we make fun of Bruce as the old Chicago reporter who knows what he's tweeting half the time, but he has his sources, so I'm assuming that name is being floated around within Cubs circles that they are going to go after Corbin Burns. Recently, this past week in The Athletic, Sadev Sharma wrote about switch hitter from the Orioles, another Orioles guy, Anthony Santander.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be a free agent. He's 29, going to be 30 in the offseason. He can play right field, DH, big power guy. He's having the best year of his career. I think he's 38 home runs now. He's been a 30-plus home run guy for the past few years. Kevin, do those names excite you? I know to different levels, but they do for me. Again, it's all talk now, but just little rumors starting already for free agency.
Yeah, I mean, Soto's the big name, but I don't know if he'll ever get close to it. I think he'll.
Jeff Passan dropped a little kind of a free agency preview, kind of for ESPN. And the Cubs were brought up, but again, it basically everyone's like it's going to be the Yankees or the Mets. So,
yeah,
take that for sucks.
Yep.
Wish it was the Cubs, but
should be the Cubs. But...
It should be the Cubs. It should be. That's the thing. It should be every team. Like every team should be like, yes, we want future Hall of Famer 25-year-old Juan Soto. God, that sucks. But yeah, Corbin Burns, Anthony Santander.
I mean, they don't move the needle as much, but Burns is kind of fun because he's obviously got a little excitement as far as performance is concerned. But I mean, the Cubs they've delayed long enough where I kind of feel like I'm a little more excited about some of these guys that may or may not be at that cusp of coming up next year. So I don't know. Intelligent spending now matters, but not when it didn't matter. When they should have been spending while they're building the farm, they didn't. And now that the farm is almost ready, it just gives them an excuse to not spend, and that's what they're going to do. But I'm actually looking more forward to the prospects that are actually. I'm not prospect perfect by any means, but I do feel like players like Matt Shaw, they're closer than we realize. And one good offseason could push them over the edge. Well, let's see how Cam Smith does here, because if Cam Smith keeps pushing it, you got another guy that's going to be. And I honestly, I don't know how this plays out this offseason with the third base position, because they do have options as far as trades could possibly. They don't have to stick with Isak. They could go with Shaw and trade him because he's tradable. But
I think there's another guy in the infield who could also be traded away. Unfortunately, we need to do in the offseason, once the season's over, we need to take a look back at Nico Hoerner's season, see what happened here, because the defense still strong. So I will give him credit for not taking the struggles to the field. Still struggled early, like in April, but since then, him and Dansby still been Gold Glove caliber. But man, the offense kind of it didn't plateau again. It just declined, regressed. But I think that's surface level. I think there's more. We'll get to it in the offseason on Nico Hoerner. Also, one of the prospects we're talking about, the Cubs have a lot of the farm system right now is top heavy for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was deep, I think, a year ago, but I think with some of these promotions, and there have been some guys who have unfortunately regressed, but still, you still have 5, 6, up to 7 top 100 prospect level guys. I do expect a big trade. I don't know who. There have been the rumors that maybe Alcantara his name was floated around. Maybe Owen Casey's name was floated around. I think I've told you last offseason when the Bo Bichette, when those talks were happening, I thought maybe it was maybe like a James Triantos was going to be dangled. I thought he would be like the main guy traded, but with after the Paredes trade, like he's going to be the third base. He needs to turn it around. We'll talk about him next time. That guy, you remember I said, hey, this is going to be a win-win. It's looking like a lose-lose. He's been brutal since coming over in that trade, but hopefully he turns it around. Again, for Sox fans, we still do have Sox talk. Mitch does it every Wednesday at noon. Pinwheels pregame. Joining him live on YouTube. Again, the comments too. We'll be back. Football season starting next week. But we'll get back on for the Cubs. Hopefully they keep this run going. Get hot. Braves stumble a little. Maybe the Brewers stumble a little. Let's get back in the division. Maybe. I don't know. We've seen the Cubs crumble enough in September. How about another team in the division?
Yeah, let somebody else do this.
Somebody else.
It's your turn.
Right? And hey, Craig, this is Craig Council's time. He's been known for September. His September teams go on crazy runs. So let's do it again, Craig. Until next time, I'm Aldo. For Kevin, follow us at Pinwheels Ivy Pod. You can follow Kevin at KFids, myself at Aldo Soto 21. Go Cubs. Keep it going, boys. Stay safe, everyone. And we'll see you